It's been dubbed the Electrified Streamliner, and this past November, the pre-sale of the first edition sold out in 24 hours. I'm talking about the new Hyundai Ioniq 6 that already sold out in Germany, France, Norway, the UK, and the Netherlands. Actually, this was intended to be a limited sales run, just 2,500 pre-sale units as an experiment, if you will, to test the market, gauge consumer demand, and see whether Hyundai could even compete on the open market. Well, the fast sellout surprised Hyundai itself, not just consumers and analysts. Today we're looking at what Americans can expect from the North American version, when it's coming out, and how Hyundai made it more aerodynamically efficient than even the Tesla Model 3. Here's the thing, the Ioniq isn't a brand new car per se. Actually, in case you aren't as familiar, the Hyundai Ioniq initially started out as a compact 5-door liftback with a 2017 model year. Hyundai marketed the Ioniq as the first automobile to be offered without a standard combustion engine option. Instead, the car was sold in either hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and full battery electric options. But fast forward today, the Ioniq 6 is a battery electric mid-size fastback sedan. Now, the limited number of fortunate ones who were able to pre-order can expect to get their hands on the first Ioniq edition sometime between March and April of 2023. For consumers who weren't able to pre-order, Hyundai says that the dealerships will send an offer out at a later date. But look, the pre-sale price tag wasn't cheap. The fully equipped limited edition cost 66,400 euros, which is like $69,800. The standard version was pre-sold at 43,900 euros, or $46,000. We're talking $68,500, but it's still a far cry from a Tesla Model S, for example. If you're like me, you're probably wondering if or when we'll see the Ioniq 6 here in the States. Actually, Hyundai officially debuted the US version several weeks ago. The US version is a bit different than the European one. For starter, the European variant is estimated to offer up to 382 miles of range. But in the US, its estimated range is 340 miles for the rear-wheel drive model. Now, the Ioniq 6 is built on the same eGMP electric car platform as the Ioniq 5. This means there are many similarities between these two EVs. Hyundai is offering 3 trim levels in North America that are almost identical to the Ioniq 5 trim levels. With the eGMP platform, the Ioniq 6 is one of the few vehicles in the US with a fast 800-volt charging system. That brings it up there with the fancier vehicles like the Porsche Taycan. The aerodynamics of the American version also differs slightly. The drag coefficient of the Ioniq 6 here is 0.22. Originally it was 0.21, but that's because it was calculated on Ioniq 6 with digital side mirrors that still aren't approved here in the US yet. These not yet approved digital mirrors replace traditional side mirrors. They capture and then send a feed of what you normally see out of the window onto the LCD displays on the extremities of your dashboard instead. For the US, we can expect the Ioniq 6 to go on sale here in the US in the spring of 2023. So far, as of the recording of this video, the price is yet to be announced. Hyundai says it will announce the price closer to the on-sale date. Let's talk about 3 different trims. We have the rear-wheel drive standard range version. This trim comes with a 53 kilowatt-hour battery, a single rear motor with 149 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. So far, there's no information on the range or acceleration from this particular trim. But seeing the Ioniq 5 has a range of 220 miles, we can assume that this trim will likely go higher thanks to its more aerodynamic design. Then there's the rear-wheel drive extended range version. This trim comes with a 77.4 kilowatt-hour, 255 horsepower, and 258 pound-feet of torque. According to Hyundai, this trim will also have a range of 340 miles. And last but not least, there's the all-wheel drive extended range trim. This trim comes with 2 electric motors and a combined 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. It also comes with the 77.4 kilowatt-hour that Hyundai has hinted will allow the car to accelerate to 60 miles an hour in under 5 seconds. But the driving range on this one will be around 310 miles. Evidently, the Ioniq 6 will be Hyundai's first car to update its firmware via over-the-air updates. The Ioniq 6 will also have active sound design that will use an acoustic design processor to provide unique driving sounds inside the cabin. There's also the Ioniq 6's route planner for road trips that will automatically display charging stops along the route. And Hyundai says it even knows what charging stations are in use or broken, and it'll automatically filter those out when you're searching for a charging station. Speaking of charging, Ioniq 6 owners get up to 30 minutes of free charging at Electrify America charging stations for the first 2 years of ownership. And then there's the Hyundai Home. It's a new service Hyundai recently announced. The service offers consumers the choice to have dedicated home chargers, rooftop solar, and energy storage systems, together with Electrum. Hyundai plans to develop a one-stop online marketplace that will connect homeowners in certain states to solar panels, EV chargers, energy storage systems, and local installers. Using this new Hyundai Home marketplace, customers will be able to purchase a home charger, learn about home solar and energy storage, and even access their own dedicated energy advisor. The dedicated energy advisor will assist in the purchasing process. The advisor will also present customers with 3 installation bids per project from Electrum's electricians. Right now, current phase of Hyundai Home is available through Hyundai dealerships in 16 states. One highlight of the Ioniq 6 is its surprising aerodynamics. In fact, it has one of the lowest drag coefficients of any production vehicle ever made. You'll notice the car has a uniquely streamlined shape and design. That's because Hyundai wanted the EV to offer low wind resistance and high all-electric range. And to do this, they looked at some of the most streamlined shapes in car and aircraft history, in addition to nature itself. Believe it or not, the Ioniq 6 was partly inspired by the world's fastest bird, the peregrine falcon, which can dive at speeds up to 242 miles an hour. The Ioniq 6 has a remarkable drag coefficient of just 0.21, and to put that in perspective, the Tesla Model 3 rates at 0.23. The Mercedes-Benz EQS is one of the few EVs that's slippier than the Ioniq 6. Its range is at a 0.20 CDs. Achieving aerodynamic efficiency is no simple task. Remember, aerodynamics is crucial, most especially in electric cars. That's because batteries and EVs are extremely heavy, and all that extra weight makes for lower range and impacts driving stability, performance, and wind noise. That's why Hyundai spent 3 years to refine the shape and silhouette of the car. They prioritized on streamlining the car and achieving that teardrop shape. According to Hyundai's head of styling, Simon Losby, the Ioniq 6 design was heavily influenced by the 1947 Stout Scarab, Phantom Corsair, and Saab Saab. These are iconic streamliner cars. They were the epitome of the functionally efficient vehicle aesthetic. And now Hyundai took that aesthetic and electrified it. In fact, the Ioniq 6 has even been nicknamed the Electrified Streamliner. There was also the World War II British fighter planes, the Supermarine Spitfire. Hyundai designers took inspiration from the Spitfire's design of the winglet, which you can see on the side of the Ioniq's rear spoiler. This helps absorb the airflow from the roof and reduce drag by minimizing vortices at the spoiler's tip. This winglet also helps to reduce drag by reducing the eddy currents that are generated from the side of the Ioniq 6. Even the car itself looks like the streamlined shape, like the wing of an airplane. Many people don't know this, but cooling resistance is responsible for over 20% of total air resistance. That's where the active flap, or AAF, on the front bumper comes into play. The active flap opens when the cooling system needs to run, and when it closes, it becomes unnecessary to reduce air resistance. That's because the Ioniq 6 doesn't have an internal combustion engine, so it has a relatively small area that needs to be cooled. Because of that, Hyundai applied an external AAF to raise cooling efficiency by distributing the airflow when it opens. Basically, when the AAF is open, it acts as an airflow guide vane. This helps air to easily enter the radiator. Once the flap's closed, the active air flap guides the airflow into the tilted air intake and works with the wheel air curtain and wheel gap reducer to improve the car's aerodynamic performance and reduce drag. The wheel air curtain naturally connects with the air flaps. It has a vented hole in the side instead of on the front of the vehicle. When the air flaps are closed, airflow gets concentrated to the front of the vehicle, and that pressure at the front gets distributed to the wheel air curtains. Meanwhile, the air that escaped through the air curtains flows to the outside of the tire to reduce air resistance. If you notice the short front overhang, that was intentional. Hyundai lengthened the wheelbase to maximize the interior cabin space. Now, normally that works against aerodynamics, so to fix that, designers made a wheel gap reducer to minimize the space between the front bumper and the tire. So now, the airflow from the front bumper doesn't separate from the wheel, but rather flows over the wheel. By the way, if you're wondering what's behind the meaning of the name Ioniq, actually it might surprise you to hear that it's the union of two words, ion and unique. An ion, as you may know, is an electrically charged atom and an essential component of any battery. Especially when you consider that EVs are powered by electric motors and batteries, well, now you can see why the name is appropriate. If you're wondering how easy or hard it'll be able to get an Ioniq 6 here in the States, that's unknown at this time. All Hyundai said for now is that it'll be available at select dealers only. If you're wondering why it'll be limited, well, that's a good question. After all, many consumers assume that EVs are sold in every American state, but actually it's not entirely so. Some EV makers sell their cars in select states, and that's by deliberate choice. They have their own reasons, of course, but let's talk about the three main ones. The first one is that some automakers have limited inventories of EVs, so they chose to prioritize their sales to states they believe will bring in the most profit. Obviously, that means a state with better infrastructure, incentives, and so forth. The second reason is that certain states have local franchise laws that mandate car makers to sell cars through third-party dealerships rather than selling directly to consumers. Now, mind you, some EV makers don't work with dealerships, but they have their own stores. I'm talking about Tesla, Lucid, Rivian, and Polestar, for example. So you can see how this will restrict some of their sales. And the third reason is states set their own emissions requirements. And since EV makers have set an inventory of EVs as it is, they now just weigh if it's worth their time to meet a state's emission standards and move on to another state. But what if you have a dream EV and it's not being sold in your state? Well, you can still get your dream EV. One option is to buy the EV directly from the car maker. Brands like Tesla, Lucid, Rivian, and Polestar already have a direct sales business model in place to get around the sticky state franchise laws. Many EV makers deliver their vehicles to a local delivery center. A second option is to buy a used or pre-owned EV. That's because most state franchise laws apply to new cars, not used ones. Or a third option is to directly contact a local dealership in your city about buying an EV from another state. There have been cases where local dealerships were perfectly fine being the middleman for an extra fee, of course. But now you tell me, what do you think about the Ioniq 6? Do you think the quality and craftsmanship will be better than a Tesla? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.